2023 already, and we're in November. I just can't believe it. As usual, the time just flies by. And we're so grateful to be able to connect like this in real person, real time, with leaders in the field of healing. I think most of you know me as Dr. Shamini Jan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Consciousness and Healing Initiative. And we're so pleased to be able to offer these free webinars on healing with great gratitude to our donors who help support these, as well as you who join as Chi contributors by donating a mere $9 a month. I would say, I dare say, even better than a green juice a month for your sustenance and your health and your inspiration. We greatly appreciate your support. So big shout out to all of you who have joined as Chi contributors to support these webinars and of course watch them in perpetuity after. It's our way of saying thank you for your support as our nonprofit. I would love for folks to jump in and let me know where you're coming from today. Please feel free to throw in the chat. I think we've got it enabled so that you can let us know where you're hailing from. What time zone are you in today? We would love to know. And we're so, so grateful that you're here. It's really my pleasure to host these in Romania. My goodness, that's far. What time is it over there in Romania? Would love to know what time it is there. It's evening your time, I imagine. Carmen, thank you for joining us. Portugal, Vermont, oh, 9 p.m. So we've got definitely some evening folks with us. Wonderful. Well, as you'll learn, we're going to be doing some fun practices, which might be good wind ups or wind downs, depending on what time zone you're in. Wonderful. Vermont, we've got some East Coasters and West Coasters as well. I love these webinars because we get to learn so much about the practices that we all share. And it's just a joy to be able to share different kinds of practices that lead us back to the wholeness of our spirit and the wholeness of community. And I have two leaders with us today that I'm so delighted to be introducing to you, who are going to be taking us through a wonderful journey with a practice called ITP. I'd like to introduce them both to you now. We have with us both Christina Grote and Pamela Kramer, and they serve as part of a wonderful organization called ITP. Christina Grote is the board chair of ITP International, and she's been a practitioner of ITP, which is Integral Transformative Practice, since 2003. She's a licensed massage therapist, and her interest in natural healing led her to explore ITP and include it in the work that she was already doing. She founded ITP Columbus in 2004, which continued on for many years, and has moved forward designing and teaching workshops in ITP at many conferences, along with her longtime friend, collaborator, and president of ITPI, Pamela Kramer. Pamela is president of ITP International, and as we'll learn, it's a nonprofit organization that stewards the work of this integral transformative practice, and really deeply rooted in its founders, George Leonard and Michael Murphy. Pam is an ITP mastery teacher. She's also on the faculty of Esalen Institute, and she presents workshops at venues on ITP in the US and abroad. She also trains teachers and consults with organizations and their leaders, I'm sure using ITP processes. So we love acronyms around here, as y'all know, and there's a reason why we use PNI, PNE, ITP, lots of different acronyms, ladies. Tell us a little bit about what's ITP and the title of your book and this gathering is about living an extraordinary life. So how do those things link up? What is ITP and how does it lead us to living an extraordinary life?
Well, maybe I'll start. So ITP, Integral Transformative Practice, was created by George Leonard and Michael Murphy. So this was at the early days of the human potential era, I guess you could say, in the 60s, when Esalen was started by Michael Murphy and his co-founder, Dick Price. They were exploring what human potential really is and how great our capacities are that are unseen, unrecognized, not cultivated in our culture. So they created this program to explore the further reaches of human potential and also to give people a practical path for integral development. So they named it this, it's kind of a mouthful, but integral meaning that we honor and cultivate all aspects of our being, which includes body, mind, heart, and soul. So nothing's left out, nothing is unappreciated. We bring it all in. And so we have many practices that are included in ITP, the 9 core practice intentions that cover all that. So that's integral. The transformative is, we define it as any positive change that you want to make in your life, in your being. And practice, of course, we talk about the need for long-term practice if you want to make a change that lasts. And it becomes really more of a lifestyle, it becomes just a part of what you do, like brushing your teeth. It's things that you do that are healthy and good for you. And when all of our aspects are in balance and in harmony, then that creates what we call the launch pad. That's the word that George Leonard used. He said ITP was a launch pad for places yet unknown. And so, Michael Murphy wrote The Future of the Body, which is about the further reaches of human evolution. And George was an Aikido master and author, editor of Look magazine for many years. So he brought in energy awareness through Aikido, and a lot of those principles are woven into ITP too. So we'll be offering a little bit of that later on. Pam, I'm sure you've got something to add here.
Absolutely, and also something to share, because this is a practice that really focuses on the integral, as Christina had mentioned, with a little bit of emphasis on the body as the teacher. So it's an opportunity to create a greater sensitivity to the messages that come through the body, internally and unseen, because also we focus on the subtle bodies. So we're aware of sensitivities, as I mentioned, messages. So I wanted to just offer a brief practice to get us into the experience of ITP, which is definitely an experiential practice. So for those of you that are here with us today or watching at a later time, I'll invite you to stand up if you'd like, or you can also remain in your seat to enjoy this practice. And it's called GRACE, another acronym, GRACE, meaning grounding, relax, aware, center, and energize. So we'll get a chance to experience that here today together.
Wonderful. And I'm going to stand up here and do it with you. I'm so excited because it's one thing
Excellent.
to talk about practice, and it's another to actually do it. So we get to have this great experience of ITP. So I'm
Yes.
inviting everyone, if you can, stand up with us.
Thank you, Shamini and Christina and all that are here gathered today. So as you can see, I pulled off my shoes, and so feeling the connection of your feet to the earth. And before we begin the practice, just check your alignment. George Leonard was often fond of saying the way we show up in the world has a great correlation to how we stand in the world. So giving ourselves a chance to become aligned, and notice just a little bend of the knees, and that allows that pelvis to rock forward. And from there, you can feel that the chest is opening, and check your spine and take a breath here. And on the exhalation, allow your whole presence to be with you here in this moment. And we'll begin with GRACE, G for grounding. Being aware of your connection of your feet to the earth and the loving embrace of the earth, holding and welcoming you. And from that centered place in the core of the earth, attention downward there. We'll draw the energy from the earth up through the layers of the earth, into the soles of our feet, up through the body, out the crown, and feel the connection of your whole being to all that is, the cosmos, heavens above, and then draw your awareness from above, back down through your crown, through your body, and back to the soles of your feet, feeling grounded. G for grounding. And R for relax, relaxation. Taking a deep breath. And on the exhalation, allowing relaxation to permeate your entire being, your physical body, your mind, your heart, and your soul, however you define it. Full and complete relaxation from the inside out and the outside in. And then take that relaxation to aware, becoming aware of your feelings in this moment, the temperature in the room, being aware of your environment, our inner connection, aware of sensations in the body, the clothes against your skin, and awareness of awareness itself, being aware, and then taking that awareness to see your center, which is about 2 fingers below the belly button, in the center of the body mass. In Japanese, it's referred to as the hara. And all of the movements that we do in our physical practices start from the hara. So feel that hara, the seat of intuition, the belly brain, and then ask yourself, am I willing to bring my best, truest, and highest power from my center out into the world for goodness, for wholeness, for peace, for love? And then from the center, E, energize, opening up the legs and drawing the hands up. This is called a scanning position. Our practice brings in elements of Aikido, the martial art George Leonard, one of our founders, was highly engaged in. And feel the energy around your space and even your own energy. You can scan your body if you'd like, or anything that you're drawn to in your room, feeling the energy, and then equally balancing energy, the left and the right hemisphere, above and below, behind you, energize. And then our practice is just to notice how we're feeling. So as you bring your feet back together, feeling grounded, relaxed, aware, centered, and energized, take a breath. And then very slowly, with that quality of healing energy inside, we'll come back and greet our group together. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was just divine. I loved it. And thank you, Pam. What a beautiful lead in you gave us to experience the energy flows and the embodiment and the presence.
Thank you, Shamini. It's a joy and a pleasure.
So this is a fundamental practice that we could do at any time. And yeah, y'all, anybody who wants to comment in the chat, you can throw it in the chat. You know, we will have time for questions later. And as you all know, I forgot to mention, if you're new to us today, you'll see at the bottom of your screen something that says Q&A. So toward the end of the hour, we'll have time for you to get your questions answered by Pam and Christina about ITP and any of the practices that we're doing. But certainly right now, if you want to throw in anything that you felt in the chat as we were practicing together, it's very welcome. I certainly felt a deeper grounding and connection with my environment here, as well as a deeper felt sense of my energy. It was really, really wonderful. And it's a stepwise process that you just led us to, and it's not random, right? You want to say anything
Right.
about the links between that flow of groundedness as potentially a seat for awareness, right? And
Yes.
rest for relaxation, and then awareness, and how it builds from there, how you've built it.
Actually, thank you. That particular practice was created by George Leonard's wife, Annie Styron Leonard, and it was really a kind of a checkpoint for safety before beginning the practice of the ITP kata, kata meaning form in Japanese, and that's a series of movements that vitalizes and activates all parts of the body and being. And so that is kind of a prelude, and yet it's also, I find, Shamini, a standalone practice, which you can do, at an airport, or when you're in the line at a grocery store, or when you're feeling that your energy is somewhat off balance or thrown off in some way by events of the day or within your own environment. And so that practice is a way of reclaiming our essence and core sense of who we are. And it's meant to be practiced over and over again. And the more we do it, it seems like it reveals greater gifts, as certainly a sense of grounding and wholeness, and also using it for healing purposes as well.
I was just going to say, it's not unlike the practices that healers across traditions use to prepare themselves to do healing work with another person. The grounding, the centering, the opening to a larger consciousness, all of these elements are very much here in this practice.
Yes, yes.
Right. I could add too, just quickly, that if your mind is really busy, which mine is, it's a good way, just coming to center. George had a lot of exercises that he developed in Leonard energy training that brought us to center. So we were in the present. I mean, that's a big piece of it too, right? So we can move from that place with whatever we need to be doing in a calm way.
In a calm way, the importance of centering in today's time for most of us can't be overstated, really. It's really key, because, as you say, Christina, we have very busy minds, most of us. We have lots of stimulation, and while lots of us have talked about and we teach grounding practices, sometimes people don't talk as much about centering. And I want to place some attention on the hara point that you mentioned and that we worked with in the centering process, and wondering if you would want to speak a little bit more about what Leonard energy training and the background with Aikido and these traditions understood about. You mentioned the hara as the seat of intuition, for example, the belly brain. What we know, of course, now, the more that we have learned about the incredible brain that is part of the gut, and how it plays a role in mental health, how it can play a role in attention, digesting emotions as well as food. We're learning more and more about that modern science every day. And then from the ancient yogic perspectives, we knew that not far from what we call the hara, which we sometimes call the solar plexus, some people would refer to it as the solar plexus, um, the third chakra, right, Manipur chakra, is the place where all the pranas meet. Okay, so all these traditions talk about the center. And some of our healers like to call the center the heart. So there are different ways of approaching it. For some people, when they think about the spiritual dimensions, they think of the heart being the center. And yet it strikes me that when you're talking about centering, you're directing us to place our attention right here, just a little bit below the belly button at the hara point. What have you noticed about working with this center for centering, both for yourself and working with others?
Christina, do you want to step in on this? And I'm happy to as well.
I think you've got a lot to say about this, Pam. But yeah, in terms of what I just said about coming into presence and feeling settled in yourself and dropping out of an overactive mind, That's something that I use quite often, just go to the bathroom, like just go find a quiet moment, or you can do it just as Pam said, standing in line at the grocery store. But it's become something pretty automatic almost. I think we've had this in our practice for so long. Not that we're always there by any means. I mean, I get thrown off, all the time, but it's a way to come back. So I just bring your attention to the heart, come back to yourself, come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on it just a little bit. Thanks for that, Christina, and the inquiry, also Shamini. What I notice is for myself, that place of focus in that central part of the body, and as you say, all the wisdom traditions, many have, kind of agreed that is a very powerful aspect of our whole being. And just when we think about alignment, if too much attention is in our culture often in the head, then the head will jut forward. It changes the whole alignment of the body. And in a sense, we practice in Leonard energy training different kinds of ways to show when we're in and off balance. And oftentimes with the head, as it juts forward, if somebody comes behind you, you'll get pushed off center really rapidly, off your center of conversation, desire to contribute, whatever. You can get thrown off really easily. The same thing happens in the heart. Often our desire to give sometimes will extend ourselves so much that we can't necessarily feel our balance. So this is a practice that to bring awareness to balance. And then, of course, the heart is open and offering, its love and support in the world for self and others. But at the same time, we know in our lives, oftentimes, if we give too much and we're not balancing on self-care or receiving, that we can find ourselves a bit in a turmoil. So these are practices also just suggested. They're experiments for all of us to find our own way. And some people prefer to focus attention in our practice on the heart. So that's some other sort of angles in on the practice of centering.
Beautifully put, both of you. Thank you so much. And what I'm getting from our conversation too is just how the fundamental groundwork of opening the heart to a topic that I know you all talk about very much in ITP, evolutionary love, means being comfortable in the body, being not just in our head, but being in our full body, being grounded, feeling, sensing, being in the balance of giving and receiving, so that we can more greatly be present in the heart when we open that center as well. It's not an either or, but there's something about the physicality and the embodiment of energy in the physical that is an essential part of being human, and something that we can embrace with the practices like you just shared, and the focus on the hara. But let's talk a little bit about the heart and this area that you all speak about, which is the role of evolutionary love in living an extraordinary life, and how you see these things coming together in ITP.
Well, Shamini, thanks for that question. It's something dear to our hearts, clearly. But evolutionary love was first written about by an American philosopher, Charles Sanders Peirce, in the late 1800s. And Toronto-based psychotherapist Adam Crabtree picked up on it and wrote a book about it 10 years ago or so. Excuse me. And the idea is that love is an evolutionary force. So it has its cosmic element, as he describes it as the force of love is what's moving evolution along. And it's a love that we are participating in, because everything in this philosophy comes from love. It's made of love. It's moving towards greater expression of love. and that we can participate in this unfolding of love. And so when we feel these evolutionary urges moving through us, we are feeling an expression of that urge. And George Leonard and Michael Murphy wrote a lot about this in their book about ITP, The Life We Are Given, that the urge to self-surpass that we feel in ourselves often is that same urge that the universe is feeling as it's expanding and evolving. So the love is powering it, and that we can express it in our lives. We've got practices in our book about ways to grow our capacity to love. Actually, love is one of the supernormal capacities that Michael Murphy wrote about in his Future of the Body. That is it's an innate capacity, but it's capable of being developed into greater and greater expressions, towards unconditional love, or a love where it's just self-existent delight. There doesn't have to even be an object. It's just you can be in this state.
Bringing one back to an expanded sense of consciousness, as an expanded experience of the consciousness that we are, which is bliss. And so evolutionary love, perhaps this concept that has been described by these folks who've written books and all, it sounds like it's not too different in some ways from the taste of anand or bliss, which is part of our fundamental human nature, perhaps.
Yeah, it would have to be.
I would say a couple of things about this. There's like in a sense, a practical feature to it too. It is the essence of life, and when we're up against some kind of conflict or challenge with another, including ourselves, we can employ this practice of evolutionary love, which means to hold that object, self, other, group, in the highest state of its flowering, no matter what, without attachment. So, and at the same time, honoring your own feelings about that circumstance. You may not like what you're seeing or hearing. You may object to it. And that presence of love flowing through you to another, it can be direct or indirect, just in your consciousness, holds great power, so that you're honoring that potential that wishes to be expressed, however it is. So I use it often. When I wake up in the morning and I'm giving myself a hard time, I'll just give myself that evolutionary love, that there's something inside of me that wants to flower greatly, and it doesn't look like it in that moment. If I'm in a foul mood, or the same thing in a discussion with another. So we bring these practices also into the programs that we offer through ITP. We have a nonprofit, ITP International, and so we bring it into programs that focus on things like cooperation and increasing harmony in the world. So I just feel so strongly about the prevailing nature of the power of love. So it's all in our book, and I know it's in everyone's hearts right now listening, because we all share this together.
We really do.
Those of you who are in the healing world, no doubt employ this. I was for quite some time. I haven't lately, but to bring, the power of love into healing work just really amplifies it tremendously. I just want to add one little thing. Michael Murphy has a great way of sort of crystallizing this whole concept. He says, love something, watch it blossom.
Oh,
it's just
I love that.
Simple,
I love that. And as I understand, you have practices to help us with that. So if we even found ourselves in a foul mood, we can certainly begin with something like the grace practice that you just helped us with to kind of get into a better connection with ourselves and our environment and the earth. And then you have a practice specifically on kind of expanding our sense of love, as I understand it. Is that right? You call it touching the world with love?
Oh, yes. Yes, we can do that one. And this one you do with an external object or being. But even that's just holding yourself in evolutionary love, just visualizing, feeling yourself, in your realization of your fullest potential in that moment, rather than fixating on that thing you think you did wrong or you messed up. But just going into the greater consciousness can really help, because you love yourself, you blossom, you love your projects. It helps them to blossom, or your clients, or whatever it may be. So yeah, are we ready to do that?
Yeah, I think that would be fun if you guys are into it. What do you guys think? And folks, feel free to jump into the chat. You want another practice? I think it's always great to practice together. And I'm certainly curious about
Okay.
how ITP approaches this.
This one is another one from George Leonard, and he created, called Touching the World. And I added with love to it because I wanted to bring a particular focus on that. And I got that idea from reading another book, which I want to point you to because it's really fascinating. It's called Imaginal Love by Tom Cheetham. It's about Henri Corbin, James Hillman's take on the imagination. So it's got all this stuff in there. Anyway, it just cued me into adding a little bit to this. And it's if we can do this seated, and it's very simple, really something you do with awareness. But we're going to start with balancing and centering again, just in our chairs. So feeling your feet connected to the floor, feeling your center. We just take a deep breath. And Chamonix, you're in a perfect place for this because you're outside with beautiful plants around you. But this exercise is meant to be done with a plant. If you can see a tree, if you can see any living plants outside or around you, or perhaps a plant in your home. If you don't have any plants around, maybe there's a pet, could be an object, something that you feel connection with, or there's something handy around you that you could do this exercise with. So if you've got something chosen now, make sure you're totally relaxed. And we're going to use soft eyes. So it's sort of bringing in more of your peripheral vision. It's not a hard eye focus. So just a soft, gentle gaze. And choose a leaf on that plant or a particular part of the object that you want to relate to. And we're going to raise our left arm in a very relaxed way. If you can't do that, or you can't raise your left arm, use your right, or you can visualize yourself doing this. Raise your arm with your index finger extended and point it directly at that leaf or that object, whatever you're in relationship with. And now just visualize that there's a beam of loving energy extending out from your fingertip, and that you're somehow actually touching that leaf through your energy, through your energetic extension. So we're transcending normal space. We're establishing an energetic, loving connection. And just imagine that you have influence on that leaf. Sorry about this. I don't know where that phone is. You have influence on that leaf, and that leaf in turn has influence on you. So you're connecting through your energies, through your loving energy. So as you send love to that leaf, and you're touching it, that leaf is sending you love back. And now, while you're still doing this, bring your attention to your center. And just think of your center as the center of the universe. And then think of that leaf as also being connected to your center. We're establishing a little bit deeper connection and just sensing that your loving energy, again, is being extended from your index finger. Now letting your eyes go soft, you can experiment with moving your finger back and forth to either side of that leaf or object, and just see if you notice a difference in sensation as you move back and forth across that leaf. Maybe a little extra tingling or warmth or just presence as you do that. Maybe your sensitivity is increasing as you pass back and forth over that leaf or other being. Now you can drop your arm, just shake out both hands. We're going to do this one more time. Give your body a little shake if you like. And again, we're going to just center in the hara one more time. So again, focus on that same leaf or part of the object you're in relationship with. And again, raise your arm and point to that leaf. And this time we're going to make sure you're pointing at it. This time we're going to close our eyes and just slowly move towards either side of that leaf. Again, noticing if you can feel a difference in sensation. And you can open your eyes when you feel like you're on it, just to check. And then close them again. And just keep trying this for a moment. Remembering that the leaf's connected to you, to your center. You've got that loving beam of energy. And just gently drop your hand. You can open your eyes. This is something that it's fun to experiment with. Just take a moment to just reflect on that experience. If there's anything you want to put in the chat about it, that's great. This exercise is included in a section of our book where we're talking about developing our subtle sensing of the external world. You can see that that plays largely in this, but also the idea that we are in relationship with everything in existence. The poet Goethe wrote about this kind of sensing in his work, that he believed that the universe is an intelligent, almost not quite a being, but it's a living force that we are in a reciprocal relationship with. So this exercise reminds me of that reciprocity. When you touch something with love, it touches you back with love.
Incredible. I've never done a practice just like this before. And I found it to be very powerful. And I have seen at least a couple of folks noting the same in the chat, that, there's just a strong relationship that was felt. Y'all, don't be shy. Anything that you want to share about what that experience was like, love to hear it. The connection was instant once one allowed the mind to just connect with it. And I loved how you guided us to not only feel our energy connecting with it, but its energy connecting back. And so you could really feel that reciprocal relationship and the communication so strongly. And, and again, of course, being in the healing field and having worked with healing practitioners for so long, I couldn't help but again make those parallels between when you lay hands on someone or when you put your hands above someone, you again are allowing for that flow of evolutionary love in the person to person healing process, which, as you know, appears to transcend time and space.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, distant healing, in our minds, people would think, well, that could never work. I mean, but it transcends space and time. And, it falls into one of the capacities that Michael wrote about in The Future of the Body, the ability to alter the environment directly. So we have these abilities, they're not talked about that much in our culture. They're not taught in school. So, one of the things that we wanted to do with this book was to just sort of point out that we are more than we think we are, that we're told that we are. And we joked about the title, we call it, but wait, there's more. It was one of the most successful advertising campaigns in history. But we do want to say, there's more, and we're just pointing it out and giving some tools to people to try themselves.
Yeah, Christine just mentioned she felt a definite change in the energy over the point she was concentrating on, a reciprocal exchange, and how beautiful that was. Yeah, Christine, thank you for sharing that in the chat. I think many of us really felt that reciprocal relationship so strongly. And you all have written a book on this to kind of help us deepen our exploration of ITP, the practices. I know from firsthand experience that writing a book is a big labor of love, and I'm just so curious as to, how was your journey with that, and what was that like to write the book? And we'd love to know more about the book. I think, oh, great, Jason has got this up on the chat for us so that we can see this beautiful book, Living an Extraordinary Life. There we go, by Christina Grote and Pamela Kramer. And I see, of course, a website there where I imagine you can buy it at itp-international.org, but I imagine it's also available at our favorite booksellers.
Yeah, it's everywhere, in print and ebook version on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, pretty much everywhere. Bookstore.org we love because they help to support local booksellers.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a process for sure, Shamini. My favorite part was doing all the research. I love to explore and read. I learned, I mean, through the years, we have had a lot more research done on, say the body. Are we good? Yeah. Like, Annie Murphy Paul wrote a book called Extended Mind, where she backed up, the wisdom of the body aspect, with science, and introduced us to whole new language and a way to talk about this. So we brought that in there. We brought evolutionary love in, we've made the practice more accessible. You can start where you are, do what you can. We've reframed some of it just to try to make it easier to understand. It's a very comprehensive practice. It's vast. I mean, when you're talking body, mind, heart, and soul, I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can go with your exploration. So we tried to present it in a more accessible way and bring in new research and things that illuminate it. So yeah, it was a labor, especially the editing part at the end. Shamini, I know you've been too.
It's like, always, all those little children that you love that all of a sudden get cut away. It's so painful.
Yes, what do you mean by that? Which was really great, because then you have to really drill down. It's like, okay, what did I really mean? I spent probably 2 hours, maybe 2 days, rewriting one paragraph.
Wow.
Trying to get it, and I don't know. I did my best.
Well, it's
I'll chime in real quickly here, just in terms of the experience of being part of this project with Christina, who's the primary author, employing all the practices that ITP has to offer into the collaboration was the most exciting part of it for me. So how can I remain balanced and centered in, you know, times of distress? How can I express myself skillfully using our practices of staying current? And, you know, how can I pace myself such that I'm in a creative space to produce? So, you know, there were lots of joys and challenges through the process, but ultimately, it's like ITP. It's a practice to write a book.
That's right. It's writing a book is its own practice, and it sounds like, you know, it was a beautiful journey of kind of being in service to what ITP is and conveying all of its goodness, both from a research and practical perspective for people. And I love that you have made it very practical and relatable to living an extraordinary life. I love the title. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing book, you guys. Highly recommend you check it out wherever books are sold. With your favorite bookseller, I think they've mentioned a few places already. And I think Jason has put this in the chat. Yes, Marcia is talking about how readable and relatable it is. And she says, I find new things and ideas revisiting different parts of the book. And that's what a good book does. You know, we read it, we digest it, and then we come back and we reread it. We get a new insight, and it's a practice, right? That's the whole point, is the more we practice, the more insight we gain, the more we learn, and the more extraordinarily our life becomes. Really wonderful. Well, we have a few minutes for Q&A, everybody. So if you have a question for Pam or Christina or both of them, this is a great time for you to throw in your question in the Q&A for them. And, you know, I'm going to speak for them and say, I think that these ladies are very well versed in questions related to theory, research, practice, integration, you know, even just, you know, questions about practices in general, a different practice, all of it I think would be very welcome. And while, you know, folks are pondering what kind of question they might want to ask, my question to you really is this. Both of you came to ITP already with a wealth of knowledge and experience, you know, whether it was massage therapy, other healing therapies, different practices. What drew you to ITP, and what changes have you seen in your life having done this practice for many, many years?
I guess I'll step in here on this one. My original training was as a yoga teacher in my 20s. So I brought that practice into ITP. And what I found is that all the parts fit together into a handy model. And so it just made my life feel less segmented, more integrated. And I've cultivated so many parts of myself. The whole idea is cultivating all the aspects means that there's kind of an acceleration of growth and lasting change over time. That's how I've interpreted my practice. And so at this point in my life, I feel the most, I would say, at the top of my game, you know, and I'm in my 70s and I'm excited for each aspect of the way. So I'm going forward. So there's something really powerful about being able to work with one's body, mind, heart, and soul in an integrated way that's made relationships smoother and more healthier. And also inside of myself. I think that's the place I always think about beginning, is within. How am I inside of myself with Pam? So that's just one of many aspects. And we work with affirmations. So the affirmations process has been extremely valuable, so that we focus on positive changes we're seeking over time, and really practice and work with those affirmations and bring them alive. So since I've been a practitioner for over 23 years now, I've had many affirmations over that course of time that many have been realized, and some of them are, in fact, extraordinary.
I would love to come back to that, the role of affirmations in all of this, because with an embodied practice in using affirmations, I could understand how powerful that could be because you're really bringing the mind and energy together. Often when people talk about affirmations, they think about it in sort of the mental, spiritual domains and not necessarily connecting it with the energy, which is so powerful. Christina,
Yes.
what about you? Like, how have you seen your journey shift as an ITP practitioner, and what drew you to ITP specifically?
There were a lot of coincidences that where it showed up in my life. But the one that got me started was I received the book, The Life We Were Given, as a premium when I joined the Institute of Noetic Sciences years ago, and they used to do that. And I had a healing practice at the time. I was working with the body and sound and all kinds of subtle energy healing work. And but I was looking for ways for my clients to help themselves. And I started teaching a self-care course while I was bringing in a lot of practices. And so I started teaching some of the Leonard energy training practices to my clients. And through circumstances, I got connected with George Leonard personally, and we started talking on the phone quite a bit. And then my husband and I went out for an ITP workshop with him at Esalen, and it sort of took off from there. So we helped start the nonprofit, and he asked me to be board chair. I've never been on a board in my life. I had no idea what was called for. And but I had on the job training. I've actually stepped down just this past spring, but I was board chair for 18 years, I think.
Wow.
So I moved into sort of my leadership abilities, I guess, from that sort of jump start. But it's also given me a lot of confidence to explore things that I'm interested in. You know, George said he had this whole philosophy about the holographic universe and how we participate, as we were saying, it's a living intelligence that we're part of. And he said in potentia, we have access to all the knowledge in the universe. So that and YouTube, you can like figure out how to do anything. So
Beautiful.
I got into sculpture and painting. I play the washboard in a bluegrass band. I mean, I do a lot of things. And I feel like I've been able to step into that because I have sort of this confidence that the universe is holding me, inspiring me, and that there are elements there that may be unseen that are guiding me along the way too.
I love it. I'm just the themes of self-awareness, creative confidence, ability to lead are all the things that happen when we begin to free our energy, right? And center it in these ways that you learn in ITP. And this is a real relevant question that's coming from Elizabeth right now and related to how you describe ITP as a way to experience both personal and social change. And Elizabeth wants to know, how do you use this practice to affect the horrible things in the world, like things that are going on, for example, right now in the Middle East?
Go ahead, Pam.
Oh, I could respond. I'm sure you've got some things to say about this too. Yes. So this practice for me gives me a sense of groundedness and an empowerment to make choices in the best interest of all concerned. And so at this point in time, the more I bring forth my greatest potential, that gift extends out into the world, and we see the ripple effect of our own sort of expressed potential in the world affecting others, almost like a transmission. The more grounded we are, it's felt in a room. The more loving we are, it's felt in the room. And so I use the practice, especially in community settings, because this is a community experience too. Practitioners can practice on their own with a friend, but we also have a very rich, vibrant community experience. So to be able to share our concerns and receive the support of other practitioners is really essential. And I feel like the more I focus on my contributions and the joy that I feel of being alive, the more it gives me strength to carry on as different the suffering occurs in the world. So I'm, in a sense, a part of a stream of many of us that are hopeful for peace and love in the world. And the more I'm connected to that, it feels like I'm strengthened and emboldened to do more.
This is beautiful. And Christina, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that is beautiful, Pam. I was thinking, like we can't, affect this directly, as the question is there, but we can hold everyone there in evolutionary love. And that can be really challenging, especially if you have a strong position on I'm going to say one side or the other, for lack of better language right now. But if we can sort of hold that image that love, I know maybe it sounds not so realistic right now, but this arc of history, through the fullness of time, that evolution is moving towards something positive, sort of greater unfolding of our divine natures. And if we hold everyone there in that light of unfolding, and just send love, I think that's probably the best that we can do. The Tibetans have a practice taught called Tonglen, which maybe you've heard of, where you're sending and receiving. So you send love, you send your positive intentions, you receive the suffering, and it's sort of transformed through your love. So that's something that I do when I'm witnessing real suffering and pain in myself or others.
Amazing, amazing answers, and so relevant to John's question, which, John, we will touch on before we end here, because I think John's question is also kind of an answer in a ways, but I would love to hear you both expound on it. Because it's very much related to the inner and outer experience. Sometimes, as you know, people like to say, oh, you people that are sending love and light onto the universe, it's such a bypass, and it's so because they're not seeing this link. And so John, I'm going to tell you a little bit about John. John says, my background is in physics and psychotherapy. I sense that central to the material world is a complex web of cosmic and electromagnetic forces in evolutionary movement. My question is, do you see overlaps between the love as an evolutionary force and the cosmic forces of the universe? Would you like to say anything about being receptive to both cosmic forces and the integral force of love? And, to me, his question is so relevant to this topic of ITP and social change. So either of you care to say anything specific about that?
I'll just say yes to all of that, John. Agreed wholeheartedly and fully. And the web of interconnection, it's so profound. If we can notice, like the exercise of touching the world, that we are of the world, we are of the cosmos. There is this co-creative energy force that's going on. So if we can keep that alive inside of ourselves, I think that strengthens our connection to others whose points of view we may disagree with, but that love prevails. So those are just my parting notes on that. And thanks for such a beautiful question and answer at the same time, John.
Yeah, I think, we see them as basically the same. I mean, if you follow that philosophy of evolutionary love, Adam's book's called Evolutionary Love and the Ravages of Greed. We do quote from that in our book, and the first chapter is available on our website on the book resources page. It's really fascinating the way he writes about love. It really is the evolutionary force. So, he's making them one and the same.
And embodying that love inside is really the essence of our practice. Thank you.
And, again, doesn't mean that embodying love means love in action, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And it doesn't mean,
whether it's the subtle level, the physical level, all of it is
Correct.
connected. So if we can start with the subtle and we can
Yes.
understand and really embody love, then the choices, the actions are not made in reaction, literally reaction all
Yes.
over again, but a new way, an evolutionary force, a creativity informed by cosmic consciousness.
Yes.
That's what it's about. Wow. Such a wonderful and enlightening conversation with you both today to learn a little bit more about ITP, and tell us again where we can purchase the book and learn more about ITP. We'll put those links again in the chat. I know Jason did earlier, but I think, people should definitely, if you are not familiar here with the website for ITP, I'm just putting it here in the chat again, so that you can check it out. And the book, of course, available. And is that the best place to find you both?
Yes, I think so. I'm Pam at itp-international.org. So I welcome any questions and your participation. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all, and Shamini for the beauty of who you are and what you bring to the world. So thank you so much. And my beautiful collaborator, Christina, thank you so much. And all the team at Chi, thank you for all of your support too.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for your love and your light, your wisdom. And thank you, everybody, for sharing yours as well live here today. We look forward to gathering again together very soon. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much. Blessings to all.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.